That's what they do to people that get raped in the Church of Scientology. We've got cases here where if you pay enough money to the church, if they find out you've done something like you've molested your own children, and this is true, what do? As long as you pay enough money to go to the next level in Scientology, they won't go to the police. And then the man finally wanted to leave the Church of Scientology, so what did they do? They went to the police, and they told them everything that they knew. Not before he molested her again, I might add. What is dazzling me is that a man called Cyrus Brooks in there, Anita Fraser, Terry Crutchfield, Edward Dickey. Edward, I know you can hear me. I used to work with this guy 20 years ago. He sat there in a security office for 20 years of his life. But when I first met this guy, right, let me tell you, this is what the Sea Org and Scientology do to you. Let's get an understanding. This man, Edward Dickey, 15 or 16 years of age, comes here, joins up staff. He's got these dreams of being in a band. He used to work at concerts over in New Zealand as a 15-year-old kid, right? And he loved to play the keyboard, you know, and he was playing Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer and anything else he could get his hands onto, you know? And his dream was to be a musician. And now, 20 years later, being paid $50 a week, he sits in there working 16 hours a day, sitting in a locked-up security office, believing the lies because he can't read it. They're not allowed to read newspapers. No member of the Church of Scientology in here is allowed to read a newspaper. If anybody presents them a book that contains any information about Scientology other than written by them, if they read it, they're disciplined. They may not take phone calls from me. They may not take phone calls from anybody here. Well, Cyrus is a nice guy.
He's an aeronautical engineer.
Now I'm reminded of a group that started decades and decades and decades ago that started with this sort of control level. I mean, I want some of the other people here that were in the Sea Org to speak so that when you know that what I'm talking about is not just a once-off incident, but this happens day in and day out across the world in the Church of Scientology, and I'm so loath to call it a church. I mean, there's nothing church like this. This looks like Amway Corporation to me. Do you guys feel that? Do you guys see a church anywhere? Do you guys see a church anywhere?
Do you also notice how the pyramid is three levels on it? It is a pyramid scheme.
Well, there you go. I didn't even notice that. Good bunch. This is Sheila. 8.5 years in the Sea Org. Okay, she probably put in more hard work than most people in there. I think she's got a story to tell. I think you guys don't want to hear it.
I do.
Woo! Hi, my name is Sheila Haber. This is my first time speaking publicly, and I'm here and I'm back because I have a lot of friends in the Sea Org that are still in the Sea Org. I left 22 years ago, and I officially stated I'm no longer a member of the Church of Scientology back in '87. I'm here to help you and to tell you that all the things you think about, that people aren't just following policy and that's why it's going wrong, it's not true. We tried very, very, very hard to make things work in a way that would work, and you can't do it because L. Ron Hubbard himself didn't care about children. He didn't care about the Sea Org. He didn't care about the staff. He didn't care about your families. He does not care now. Well, he's dead, but nobody else cares in management. I was a nanny in 1977. I was recruited as a 16-year-old with no parental consent. My parents thought I was staying at a church so they could give me food and shelter. They had no idea I signed a billionaire contract, which, by the way, I couldn't stop laughing for about 5 hours before I signed it.
That's a long time. It's a very long time.
I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? You guys can't really take that seriously. Anyway, I was put on the EPF at PAC, and I worked for the PAC Training Org, training Sea Org members. And one of the first jobs I had was to crawl through vents that I could barely move in because I had a very small frame. and clean out the dust out of these beds. I spent 6 months doing that, and I lost part of my eyesight from that. I also, after that, found out that there was a terrible need for nannies, and they asked for volunteers. That was the height of the Sea Org back then. We had over 200 people on the EPF. You haven't seen that since, don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
They asked for nannies, and I raised my hand. People tried to talk me out of it. I didn't like the idea of the kids being short of care. So I raised my hand and I went. And what I ran into was, I was put in a nursery with 30 children under the age of 3 in wall-to-wall cribs in a room. They didn't see daylight. They weren't taken to the park. They didn't have any outside activities. And it was the worst thing I'd ever seen in my life. The California government tried to interfere. They had inspections. They sent people almost every week to inspect conditions there. But you had them beat, didn't you? Church of Scientology, masters of lies, the masters of deception. What they do is they told us this is how the drill went. What we do is we tell them we're in the shower, we're changing clothes, and don't open the doors to our nurseries so they couldn't see what the nurseries looked like. They took everybody that was administrative staff and had them pretend they were nannies. Yeah.
Shame on you!
The whole thing was one big fake.
I can confirm exactly what she says. I've seen the same thing at the CEO in LA.
Say it, tell them.
I can confirm exactly what she's saying. I have seen the precisely same thing at the Cadet Estate Org in LA. I've seen the inspections, I've seen the staff rushed over and put on post for the hour or two to get through an inspection so that the place wouldn't be shut down. The conditions were appalling, absolutely appalling, and it never got handled.
And just
add to that, over in Los Angeles, when that failed and they kept getting raided, they set up a ranch like chickens to keep children in. And they shipped them out of LA away from their families up to Ventura County in a canyon and set up a ranch and set up a little miniature Sea Org. They all had names and positions, and you got 7-year-old kids walking around talking about saving the universe. I tell you, it's scary stuff.
I'm going to tell you some of the effects on these children too. When the one day we were able to take them to the park, they didn't move in any space bigger than the size of their cribs. Imagine that effect on somebody later in life. This is what you're doing to your children. Children need to be exposed to different things, to different experience. That's how they learn, that's how they're educated, that's how they come out normal. Second and third generation Sea Org members, Scientologists, are underachievers. You've made them that way. You have not given them what they need. When I was a nanny, the most memorable experience of that was having a child nearly die in my arms. This child's parents had been sent on mission for months. He spent day and night in that situation and got sicker and sicker and sicker. They wouldn't send him to the doctors, they wouldn't give him antibiotics, and on my own, I took him, I asked another nanny to watch both our nurseries, 60 children. While at 16 years old, I pretended to be his mother and took him to the clinic, pretending I didn't speak English, to try to get him antibiotics. I got the antibiotics. I was so happy. The child got a shot. I came back, and within a few hours, my nursery was inspected by the medical officer. She found the antibiotics and she threw them down the drain, even though I told her the child would die. We're fortunate his mother came by the next day, and when he was barely breathing, took him to emergency and left the Sea Org. I'm sure there's other children that weren't so fortunate.
Yeah, I know one that wasn't.